Hey guys, it's Jordan Holiday from College of DuPage. Thank you guys for joining us for another Chaps Unite Against Racism E4 discussion. Today I'm chatting with Aneesa Muthana, who is the president and CEO of Pioneer Services Inc. And we're going to talk about her experience as a business owner within DuPage County. Hey Aneesa, thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Jordan. Thank you for having me.
So Aneesa, let's get started. We're just going to start by talking about what Pioneer Services Inc. is and what you guys do as a company. So just discuss that for a little while.
Sure, of course. So we've been in business since 1990, and I've been president, co-owner, and CEO since 1993. We are a contract manufacturer of precision machine parts. We make parts for aerospace. We make parts for electrical vehicles, helicopters, trucks, industrial equipment, and more importantly, we've been making parts for this battle against COVID-19 for the medical and biomedical industries. We transformed in the last, I would say, 7 to 8 years from old manufacturing, more labor based, to very high tech modern machining, and we're very proud of what we've built.
Thanks, Anissa. So let's talk about your individual experience as a business owner in DuPage County, and specifically as a business owner who's a woman of color. Can you talk about some of the challenges, some of the successes, as well as some of the support that you've got from different communities within the county throughout your time leading Pioneer?
Sure. So I've been in Addison the entire time I've been in business, and the partnership that we have with Addison and Choose DuPage and DuPage County has been phenomenal. Their level of outreach, their level of, just really caring about the businesses and being engaged with us, everything from apprenticeships, internships, to outreach for sixth graders. So I'm very pleased to be in this county and village. That being said, before I can really tell you my story as a woman in manufacturing, I have to speak about the woman of manufacturing, who is my mother. She came to this country from Yemen back in 1969. Never went to school, never even held a pen before she walked into the good old US of A. And but she found a job in a factory, and at that time it was dirty, grimy, dark, when sexual harassment and racism wasn't anything anyone was talking about. I remember her coming home with blisters on her fingers and tears in her eyes every day because of what she faced. But she overcame those diverse adversities, and she is a very successful woman, business owner, not my company, but my family company. And so she was really my role model, and she was not going to give up or play the victim card in any means. So I've learned at a very young age that the world is unfair, and it does reward tenacity, and that's what resilience and tenacity is what I found. I'm not naive to the discrimination. I'm not naive to the whispers and the talking that I don't belong in this environment, but I don't pay attention to that noise. I just move on, and I serve my company, I serve my family, my industry, my community, and I let the results speak for themselves.
Thanks, Anissa. So you mentioned a lot about, the resilience that has been necessary, not only throughout your time as a business leader, but specifically within this past year with COVID. Can you talk a little bit more about that, about just some of the challenges during the pandemic that has first and foremost disproportionately impacted communities of color, minority communities? Can you just talk about how it's been navigating that as a business leader?
Sure. I think what I faced is what every business owner has faced. And I've been lucky. There hasn't been any deaths in our families, in my employees' families, or on my team. The pandemic, for the first, I would say, 8 months, we considered ourselves lucky. No one got sick. And then it just snowballed. And today, I was speaking to you offline about my night shift not showing up because of the pandemic because one person got COVID, so a few people were out. At one point we had our engineering team out, we had our quality department out, we had our CQI department, which is we can't ship without CQI, and so it's been extremely challenging. But we're in business, and it's just a matter of time, hopefully, and we'll all be either vaccinated or healthy. And so I'm just grateful for that. I'm also grateful that my company did not close or furlough any of our employees. Immediately when it happened, it reminded me back in 2012 when I lost 90% of my business. It went overseas. And I promised that I wouldn't lay anyone off or let anyone go. And thankfully, I got through that. And again, in March of 2020, it happened all over again. Our business literally shut off. Our Tesla customers were down. A bunch of our other customers were down. And then weeks later, we had an opportunity to ramp up for parts for ventilators, oxygen equipment, and then biotech equipment. So I always say, you can call it karma, you can call it fate, whatever you want to call it, it all comes back. So looking out for my team really paid back, because then I had a team that stepped up and was engaged and really cared and found conviction in their work in providing parts that really made a difference. We always talk about touching lives. We always talk about how we are part of the world at large. During the pandemic, as a manufacturer, there's no more proof than that. It's really our time to shine.
Thanks, Aneesa. So you're not only a racial minority in a field that's looking to increase diversity, you're also a woman in a male-dominated industry. Can you talk about the importance of encouraging and fostering a better sense of diversity and inclusion for both people of color and women within the manufacturing industry, as well as how you're doing so within Pioneer?
So technically, my checkbox is white. It's not person of color. I'm an Arab American, and because of that, I am a woman in a male-dominated industry. But as far as a woman of color, I am, and I'm proud to be one. But I'm not a minority. And nonetheless, as a business owner and as a manufacturing leader in this industry for 28 years, our biggest challenge, as any manufacturer will tell you, is closing that skill gap. And what better way than to expose the industry to those who may have not considered it, and that being minorities, people of color, and women. Particularly women are, there's 3 men to 1 today in this industry. So there's definitely room for more women. And it's no longer a dirty, grimy, lifting type of a job. You really do need to be technical, and you need a skill, and you need to be trained no matter where you end up. Every company is different. But it is very much so a career and not just a job. So it's a win-win. It's a career path for those that may have not considered it. And as manufacturers, it's definitely a win to close that gap. But what's more important than just hiring people is understanding what diversity and inclusion is. Because I feel like a lot of people want to join in, and a lot of people advocate for it, but sometimes in the midst of it, we become we're sending the wrong message. Because for me personally, and my message for Pioneer Service has always been that diversity is our strength. Respecting it and respecting each other is part of our core values. And what that means is diversity is not checking off a box. It's not a charity case or playing the victim or a political agenda. And it's certainly not us versus them. I think that that's becoming a little bit where the conversations are going nowadays. It's, If we are going to portray the white old male as the villain, that is how do we expect that person or that group of people to embrace diversity if they are, labeled villains? So I think it's very important that we check our intentions and we check our message, and be thoughtful in the process of how we're delivering that message. Because again, no one wants to be a charity case, and everyone wants a sense of belonging. White, brown, women, men, Black, and any minority background. Everyone wants to feel like they belong. So that, I think, should be the ultimate goal.
What advice would you give someone who's looking to step into entrepreneurship, but they're not quite sure they belong, regardless of the industry that they're stepping into? What would be your words of wisdom that you would give?
So I would say I always talk about building confidence, and that's really what it means, the sense of belonging, right? And I think the first way to build confidence is to work with conviction. No matter how tedious or insignificant you think your job is, when you work with conviction, I would say that it will build your confidence. You'll do it better and better. And no matter the industry, you'll find your niche. You'll figure out what your passion is. And it could be anything from the shop floor to C-suite and everything in between. And for me personally, I tell myself, when my mind sways and I'm the only woman, the only brown person, the only hijabi in the room, my mind can wander too. And we all struggle with that. But the minute I let myself believe that I don't belong, I might as well just stay home, because I become my biggest, advocate, my biggest villain and my biggest challenge. So one, work with conviction. Two, which is very important for everyone, is build a network, inside and outside of your workplace, because the more people the more relationships you build. These people can be your mentors. These people can be your sponsors, or even just a sounding board. I call that my personal board of directors. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have that. And everyone, no matter who they are, should have that. And three, my final piece of advice for someone that needs to build confidence is really, no matter what, life is unfair. We already know that. There's no doubt about it. But tenacity and knowing that you're not a victim and you're not disadvantaged and you bring value builds that confidence, right? And through working with conviction and building your network and having those sounding boards. But really, truly, what you need to know is that if you're working in an environment that's toxic, tell yourself that that's temporary and make it temporary. And as you're building that network and as you're building your skills, find your plan B, your plan C, your plan D, because it's on us to do that. No one's going to just hand it to us. So this is, as my parents and everyone in the world says, this is good old land of opportunity. This is America. And there is plenty of opportunities out there. There are plenty of employers that will hire, and maybe their intention is to check off a box. But when you show up and when you deliver, there's no reason why you cannot bring value and have that sense of belonging.
Thanks, Aneesa. And those are my questions for you today. I appreciate you taking the time to join us for this very important discussion for Chaps United Against Racism. Take care.
Thank you very much for having me.